everyone, welcome to After Class with Ballet for All,
a podcast by two passionate adult ballerinas about all things adult ballet related,
and some random thoughts in between.
We're so glad you're here.
So grab your water bottle
or a cup of coffee
and join us for a quick chat after class.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello, really good. I'm very happy with today's class. The group class and the point class is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a really good class today. I felt like it was, lots of really good things came up today. One of the things that was really helpful for me was when you were talking about moving your heel instead of your toes when we're doing any sort of pivoting at the bar. So that was really good.
Yeah, so that's what we call the entournant in ballet. Yeah, so every time you move to change direction over the supporting leg without changing legs, or even if you change legs, it's always called entournant. So you're going to always turn around. And yeah, basically that's the foundation for your pirouettes. And every time you need to focus on always lifting your heel, because since the first moment we do any tendius without turning around, I always ask for the body weight over the toes, isn't it? Therefore, if we are going to turn around, we are not going to do it over the heel. We're going to still keep your body weight over the toes and move the heel either back when it's on the oars or move the heel forward when it's anything handed down. Not just pirouettes, but this is the direct foundation for pirouettes. So basically any tendius, entournant, jetés, anything that we do, entournant will always be over the toes and move your heel. Never ever move your toes. That's a big rule.
Yeah, that was one of those things that I feel like in ballet is kind of unlearning what we tend to naturally do as people. Like I think a lot of times we tend to pivot off of our heels. And so with ballet, I feel like that was one of those things in my brain that I had to kind of tweak and switch over, was moving the heel, not sitting back in the heel, but putting more body weight over the toes and being able to freely pivot. Because you're right, it makes it so much easier once you start doing pirouettes and things like that when you've already trained yourself to be more towards the balls of your feet and more off your heels. So yeah, that was a really good one today.
It's really interesting when you said undoing what it feels natural to us. And it's really funny. If you think about it, you have a child near you, ask them to turn. Don't say anything. You don't say direction. Don't say en passé coup de pied on a leg. Just ask them to turn over one leg. And as soon as they start to do it, that turn first is going to be on the down. It's never going to be on the oars. Think about that. And second, the biggest part of anyone who tries that is going to do it on the heels. They will never go on thinking, oh, let me do it over my toes and lift my heel. Naturally, we will always turn first on the down, and we are always going to do most of the time the turn over the heel. So ballet is so different to what we do every day.
Yeah, it's so true. There's so many little things you have to kind of stop, think, say, okay, we're going to do this differently than what feels natural. But that's why it's hard. That's why it's a challenge. And that's why we love it.
Definitely. But I do remember, like, as a kid, I remember when we had that technique, our teachers put us in the center class and they said, okay, we're going to learn pirouettes today, but turn. Do a turn by yourself. And naturally, everyone was just ready to do that pirouette inwards and the down. And she was like, and that's why we don't learn the Cuban ballet school. We don't learn pirouette and the down until like way ahead of like your technique, because it's so natural to you that we just spend way more time teaching on the oars, and then it's that we teach pirouettes and the down. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's so funny. Well, today I'm excited for this one. I feel like this topic is hopefully going to help people feel more comfortable jumping into online classes. I feel like new year, a lot of people are deciding to try online ballet. And so today we're going to talk all about helping to set you up for success if you're going to be jumping into online ballet classes. So
definitely, and helping everyone to do it with confidence. There is no such thing as the perfect dancing room. I mean, I have a perfect dancing room in my opinion, but there is no such things as like the perfect dancing studio. Yeah? So I'm pretty sure if some of the tips we're going to give them here today are going to make them realize that you can then take that step forward to get into your online ballet classes today. Like you have most of the things that you need at home, at least just to start. And then slowly you will find out like a bar that it works better for you, or if you want to work or not with a bar or things like that. So what do you think, Hannah? You have a good experience on like arranging your dance studio to finding the best spot for you. So how was it?
Yeah, I think like probably one of the biggest things is choosing the room or choosing the space. So I guess as a teacher, what do you think as far as how much space someone needs to have to be able to successfully take an online class?
So as a teacher, everything that I really want to be able to see is, so you extend arms by your side, and I want to be able to see from the fingers right hand all the way to the end of like the tip of the fingers of left hand. Then rise your hands up, and might not be able to get all the way from the toes up to your extended arms on top of you, like all the way to the fingers. But find one space where your teacher, your future teacher, can see everything, like your arms extended, your legs extended, one in the air especially, and then that you can turn around without like tipping anything. So that would be the perfect case scenario for sure.
Yeah. And I think when you think about that, and I get why I think maybe people think you need to have more space for online classes, because when people picture ballet, a lot of times they're picturing like grand jetés, which on most online classes, they're not going to be doing. So you're probably not going to be doing grand jetés across your living room. So really, I think it's less space than what people probably think you need to actually be able to do, especially for a bar class. So it's really just probably like 5 feet by 5 feet square is a good, I think, maybe estimate for that. And then as far as flooring, what is your recommendations for optimal flooring?
Okay, so we're talking about home, right? So you will be at home, you might be in your factory, you might be in your office, isn't it? But please do not do ballet on carpet. It's just so hard. Like, I have been teaching ballet online for the last 3 years or so. I moved to Australia 6 months ago, and you remember, Hannah, that I have to teach for a while on the carpet in one of my bedrooms, and I struggle to do anything. It's not because of the technique. I'm a little bit more aware of my body than you're gonna be when you start your ballet classes, and you won't know how difficult and how dangerous it is to turn, pivot, do anything over one leg on carpet. There is not stability, there is no safety. So I would recommend, if you don't have anything else and you have the carpet, it's okay. You might be able to find maybe it's a rectangle made out of wood or something a little bit more solid and more stable. Otherwise, the floor that you have at home, tile, wood floor, that's perfect. We're not going to be jumping, which is the hardest part of training when it's online because of the risk of getting injured of jumping on hard floor. But you don't need to have the perfect harlequin ballet floor. Like, not everyone has that chance. So tile, something like really stable that doesn't like move or wobble too much, which is the carpet what happened. So I think that almost everyone will have a room at home that they have tile or they have floorboards.
Yeah, I do our online classes in my garage. And so it is like, it's a very hard floor. It's concrete covered with some rubber. And then I actually bought a roll of the dance flooring. And it wasn't terribly expensive for a decent size. And since I am taking classes multiple times a week, and I probably purchased it after I had been really committed for about 6 months or so. So I was ready to make the investment. But yeah, I mean, I do it in my garage. So you really don't have to have, this whole fancy space to do it in. Just somewhere with a hard floor, I think, like you said, is super important, just for, especially once you start wanting to work on pirouettes and things like that. Turning on carpet, you can really hurt your knees and things like that. So I guess the next most important thing, especially for taking a bar class, is the bar. So I know, maybe if you don't have an actual ballet bar, there are different things that you can use, but really the height is probably what's most important. So what do you think is the best height range for somebody who's looking for something to rest their arm on, whether that's a counter or a chair? What's a good frame of reference for the height that they should choose?
I will say that, well, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and I will say that just go between your armpit and your waist. So in between that, just in between that space, arms would be just resting almost in front of your ribs, kind of. If it's like that, that would be a little bit awesome. If it's a little bit lower, just make sure that it's not lower than your waist, yeah, or lower than your hips. I find chairs pretty good sometimes because they have the back of the chair used. They tend to be quite high, but high enough and comfortable enough for putting, like, using as a bar. Some kitchen counter are really nice as well. Some of them are quite high, but still don't make such a big difference that you can't use it. Just avoid using anything that is too low. If it's too high, we always find a way to fix that. But if it's too low, it's very uncomfortable to then fix that later on in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's good. Like I was thinking about this the other day. It's better to start in an imperfect environment than not to start at all. Right. So like it's better to just jump in, get started with your classes. And like you mentioned at the beginning, you can kind of slowly develop your space as you're going, but don't let not having an actual bar or an actual dance floor stop you from jumping into class. So as far as getting your space set up to be on camera specifically, because if you're going to be taking an online class with a live teacher, there are some other things that can help you get the most out of that experience. I think one of them is probably lighting and things like that. So do you want to talk a little bit about, as a teacher, especially what helps you to be able to see your students and kind of get the most out of the class experience?
So lighting is really important, mostly because you are coming to the dance class, and when it's an online lesson, it's just to get a little bit more private feedback rather than just being in a big classroom, 40 dancers jumping here and there. But you are online because you just want to have a little bit more privacy, more direct and personalized feedback. For that, I need good lighting. But it doesn't need like professional lights from the very expensive, I don't know, like it's like a media designers or anything like that. No, just try to find a big enough window open in front of you. Don't worry about the noise because there is many ways to fix it, such as putting yourself in mute and having high volume. That's it. So open the windows, natural light coming in, and that would be perfect for the class. That would be a great, great help, and nothing better than natural. And it costs nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it really gives your camera the ability to pick up the best, the most clearly when you have good lighting. I know for me, like sometimes my camera struggles if the lighting is too dim, but if you have good natural lighting, your camera can really pick up a lot better for the teacher to see. And then I know as far as where you set your camera or your laptop, like I know for me, I just use the camera that's built into my laptop. I don't have a separate external camera, which I know some people do, some people don't. So whatever you're using for your camera, where is that, where should that be placed so the teacher can see you the best?
The best first is the angle of the camera. I will prefer to have you fast. So what we call in ballet fast, don't freak out if you don't know the term, you're gonna learn one day, but basically you're gonna be facing the camera. So I don't want you in an angle, if it's possible, fully facing the camera, and then try to have it like your waist level, the lowest, because if you go lower than that, it's hard for me to see the entire dimension of the body, and like the angle gets a little bit difficult for me. So I would prefer to be you fully facing the camera, and find a table, find a chair, something that can leave the camera like your waist level. That would be really good.
Yeah. Yeah, so fun. I feel like, I hope this kind of demystifies for people what it's like, because I know you mentioned at the beginning, and I think this is so true even just from talking to friends and telling them about online classes, is a lot of people feel like, oh man, what if I get on an online class and I have to turn my camera on, but my space isn't really nice and professional, I don't have a bar, are people gonna, kind of judge that or think it's weird that I'm using my kitchen counter and I don't have a ballet floor? But I think one of the things that's really cool doing online classes that I've experienced is that you see people making do with whatever they have and just being excited to jump in. I think that's a good segue, I guess, into one of the last things we could talk about, which is just like the mindset of coming in to your first online class and just more of like the mental state of coming in. And do you have any tips or anything that you would say to maybe someone who wants to take an online class for the first time but is kind of nervous to do it? What would you say to that person?
I would just say, just do it. There's never a perfect time with the perfect space, with the perfect, oh, I don't feel well today, I'm going to feel better tomorrow. There is no such thing. You just take that step forward. Go for it. Do it. And then you will be, oh, wow, I can actually do it with whatever I have in my class, in my house, and I can do it. And the teacher is not looking at whether the stage is perfect or not. I'm just looking whether you are enjoying the class or not. So to me, just go for it. Be open to understand that it's difficult, that it takes hard work, that the first day you won't be able to do Giselle on the stage of your local theater, obviously. But trust me, you will get there, and whatever your goals are, your teacher are going to listen and they are going to be ready to help you with everything. They should. Fingers crossed. Be positive. Just go very open to, you might surprise yourself.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that has just consistently been my experience with taking classes with you, other online programs that I've dropped in on classes, is the online adult ballet community is so welcoming and friendly and non-judgmental. It's a really great community. And so I think to anyone who's kind of hesitating, and because it is really nerve-wracking, and I think especially as adults, to jump into something where you feel not confident. I think as adults, we tend to like to do activities and things where we feel like we're going to succeed and do well. And it gets really scary to jump into something where you're going to feel like a beginner and feel like you don't know a lot. And it is a very vulnerable and scary thing. But I think knowing that there's a bunch of people that are in the same boat. One of the things I always think too with online class or even in-person class is no one's watching you, they're watching themselves. Everyone's just thinking about themselves too. So don't worry being in an online class that people are going to be looking at you at the screen, because they're probably looking at the teacher and looking at themselves. So don't worry about that. And I think, yeah, exactly like you said, just coming in with an open mind, and yeah, it's a welcoming community. And if you want to try it, come to our community. Come take a class with Ballet for All. We have a great online adult community and it's super fun. Everyone's in different settings, different levels, different ages, but it's really fun. So if you're hesitating, you're not sure where to jump in, come take classes with us.
And also be mind open that if I see your husband doing pirouettes in the background, have I seen him before doing? Or if I see your cats passing beside you and you're petting the cats, and that's totally normal. That happens. Your husband wants to stop spinning around and trying to do pirouettes or jumping and doing pas de chasse and stuff like that. So trust me, I'm very mindful that will happen. Not that ever happened to Hannah or to Maggie.
Yeah. And I'm like, is this based on a true story? I think it is. These are things that actually have happened in class, with my husband twirling through the background and Maggie's cats walking through class. And so come on in, join the craziness. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much for listening, guys. It was a really fun episode. I hope this was helpful, and we'll talk to you next time after class.
Thank you for listening to After Class with Ballet for All.
Join the community on YouTube and Instagram, or come dance with us, our weekly Zoom classes for adult ballerinas like you.
Links included in the episode description. Special thank you to our sponsors.
See you next time after class. Podcast produced by Mission Bridge Media.